Alright, everybody. So, it has gone through. The Warner Brothers deal has gone through. It's not going over to Netflix. It is, in fact, going over to Paramount. So, it was going to be one of the two. It was either going to be Netflix or it was going to be Paramount acquiring Warner Brothers. And in the last minute of this whole saga, Paramount swooped in with a deal that Warner Brothers simply couldn't refuse. $111 billion, I believe, is what Paramount put on the table. And Netflix didn't even try to outbid them. So, David Ellison scares the shit out of me. How Paramount beat out Netflix, won Warner Brothers, and will change Hollywood forever. This is courtesy of Variety. Yeah, this is a big deal, man. This is a big deal. And obviously we knew that this was going to happen. This deal was round the corner. It was looking fairly concrete that it was going to be Netflix. But last minute, Paramount came in with that $111 billion. So, Ted Sarandos had just wrapped up a White House meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi on Thursday when Warner Brothers Discovery released a statement announcing that Paramount's latest bid for the media company was a superior proposal to the one that Netflix had offered. With his deal to buy the 100-year-old film and television giant hanging in the balance, Sarandos quickly consulted with a key team of executives, which included CFO Spencer Newman and his co-CEO Greg Peters, who had been overseeing Netflix's bid for Warner Brothers. Under the terms of its agreement to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, Netflix had 4 business days to equal or surpass a better offer. But the numbers don't lie. Paramount was now willing to pay $31 per share to buy all of Warner Brothers Discovery, including its struggling cable business. Netflix, which only wanted Warner Brothers studios and streaming businesses, did not want to dramatically enhance its bid of $27.75 per share. Sarandos didn't see the point of dragging things out. If you know you're not going to match an offer on day 1, why wait until day 4? A source with knowledge of the deliberations said. Sarandos placed a call to David Zaslav, Warner Brothers Discovery's CEO, to let him know the streamer was walking away from a pact that would have given Netflix control of a library that included everything from Harry Potter to Batman and Tony Soprano. Then Sarandos and Peters released a joint statement in which they said, "We've always been disciplined and at the price required to match Paramount Skydance's latest offer, the deal is no longer financially attractive." Yeah, so obviously this changes everything. This changes absolutely everything. So, I mean, Paramount now get all of DC. They get all of DC. They get Harry Potter. They get Lord of the Rings. And then, you know, The Hobbit, obviously, Rings of Power. They get, though I don't know how much they want Rings of Power, they get loads of classic 80s, 90s franchises, you know. They're getting everything, basically. Just every major franchise has happened under Warner Brothers, and now it's all owned by Paramount. So this is a huge deal, you know. I saw on Twitter yesterday when this broke, someone put up a list of all the franchises that Paramount now get, and it was like just fucking everything, you know, just fucking everything. Yeah, it's crazy. This transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price, they added. An internal email was sent out to Netflix staffers that hit similar notes, namely that the streamer didn't want to overextend itself and would concentrate on growing organically rather than by acquisitions, as it has done for most of its nearly 30-year history. However, the brave face put on by the co-CEOs could not shade the truth that the company had been gearing up for what was likely to be a transformational acquisition. And then suddenly it wasn't. This deal could have accelerated Netflix's growth on top of a strong existing trajectory by attracting new subscribers, reducing churn and driving more engagement, wrote Robert Fishman, media analyst with MoffettNathanson Research. I think this probably isn't an optimal scenario either way, but given how obviously Netflix are a streaming company, and given how streaming oriented and focused they are, I mean, the whole thing of it had come out that Netflix were planning on, after acquiring Warner Brothers films were going to get like 16-day theatrical runs and then straight onto Netflix. And I'm not a fan of that. Just sort of as a premise. I think theatrical runs are still important. Certainly for particular films and franchises. I mean, I think theatrical runs need to be like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And 16-day theatrical runs, just not a fan of that. Just not a fan of that. And just, yeah, think about how they would have just Netflixed everything. You know, not everything needs to be Netflix. Not everything needs to go onto Netflix, you know? Yeah. But then, you know, on the other end, it's not great that all of the legacy studios are all owned by each other. You know, there's no more independence when it comes to the film industry. There's no more independence. Everybody is owned by everybody else, you know. If you're not owned by Disney, then you're owned by Paramount or you're owned by Amazon, you know, who aren't even a movie business. They're not even in the movie business, but they've sort of Amazon, you know, they've branched out to everything. But point is, I don't think this was probably a situation of we got the lesser of two evils. That's what this is. Warner Brothers going to Paramount is the lesser of two evils, I think. But not optimal, regardless. Netflix was wholeheartedly preparing for a regulatory fight to close the deal at the moment earlier this month that it agreed to WBD's unusual request for a waiver from the merger agreement reached on December 5th in order to hold negotiations with Paramount Skydance, according to an individual with knowledge of the situation. At the same time, WBD's board was under pressure from investors and corporate watchdogs to engage with Paramount Skydance, which went from making unsolicited offers last fall to filing a lawsuit against WBD in January in an effort to force it to disclose more details about the valuation methodology used in reaching Netflix's $27.75 per share offer. It all added up to a lot of noise. Netflix was ready to fight fire with fire until Sarandos and Peters decided to bow out. That decision, too, described by one observer as putting shareholder value above executive ego, is drawing praise from the investment community. It signals that Netflix believes in its internal growth story enough to maintain M&A discipline. We also believe the future Paramount, Skydance, Warner Brothers Discovery, they'll need a better name, could finally transform two subscale media companies into a more serious industry player, provided management has the financial flexibility to execute on its vision, Fishman wrote. Paramount's new owner, David Ellison, has been relentless in his pursuit of Warner Brothers Discovery, working his connections on Capitol Hill while making a spirited case that his company was offering a better deal for shareholders. This month, he and his team pulled off what many analysts and industry figures thought was impossible, forcing Warner Brothers Discovery to come back to the negotiating table. And Ellison was determined to make the most of the opportunity. While fine-tuning his pitch, he relied on a core team of trusted advisors and board members such as Safra Katz, Justin Hamill, and Jerry Cardinale. Paramount's Chief Operating Officer Andy Gordon worked closely with his investor relations group and advisor Faiza Saeed of the law firm Cravath, Swain and Moore. Melissa Zuckerman, Paramount's Chief Communications Officer, also was involved in the strategy sessions. Conspicuously absent from all WBD-related proceedings was Paramount President Jeff Shell, who is currently embroiled in the controversy over allegations he leaked sensitive financials in CBS's $7 billion UFC deal. So yeah, this is definitely a huge deal. And Paramount now own just a ton of new stuff. They will get Lord of the Rings, as I said, they'll get Game of Thrones, they'll get Harry Potter, they'll get Star Trek, they'll get Mission Impossible, they'll get Transformers, you know, just a lot of major franchises are going to be under Paramount now. And interestingly, a lot of news and media companies as well. So HBO, CNN, CBS, Adult Swim, not really. It doesn't fall under as a news company, but they're going to get Adult Swim as well, and they're going to get stuff like Nickelodeon and MTV. So you know their sort of catalogue of assets, if you will, has just massively increased, hugely increased. So when I say this is a big deal, this is a super big deal. And unfortunately, it does just add to the monopolisation of the film industry and of the news and media industry, because the news and media, that's all a giant fucking monopoly as well. Like every news channel, every media company, they're all owned by like the same three people. That's the thing. Look into it. The news channels and the media, all of it, are all owned by the same handful of people, the same group of people, you know. And that's what that's what films are becoming like as well. That is what the movie business is becoming. So there is that, and that is a shame. And now we can see what happens with DC as well. We can now see, we will now be able to get a better idea of the direction that DC Studios is going to be going in with the result of this deal, because there is also that looming in the background. So I'll be covering some DC stuff in the next week or so. Some DC content will be coming at you guys. There's a lot going on between Zack Snyder and James Gunn, and Matt Reeves' trilogy is in there as well, and just the direction of the studio in general, the direction of DC Studios in general, has been hinging on the result of the Warner Brothers deal, whether it was going to Netflix or Paramount, and now it is indeed Paramount. So there'll be that to be looking out for as well. So yeah, this is a huge fucking deal. This completely changes Hollywood, completely changes the film industry in general. So yeah, it's wild, wild times, ladies and gentlemen, wild times. So yeah, that is all I wanted to cover for today. So see you later.